Oh my word, it's Friday already. Oh my word. Hi, this is Jan. Welcome to another episode of a Stockpile Friday chat. How you doing today? I had some questions about canning things and freezing things. A lot of us, we're not homesteaders. Maybe we'd like to be, but we're just simply not homesteaders. Some of us live right in the middle of the inner city. Some of us just don't live, a homesteader's lifestyle. Some of us really cannot have access to canning tons of things homemade. Maybe some of us could dabble in it with optional things like dehydrators and stuff of that nature. But there is an appliance in almost everyone's home that makes us able to keep our food a little bit longer. Do we utilize our freezers enough? That is always a good option. And depending upon your family size, let's say that you rent a house somewhere, okay, but you're still not a homesteader. You're renting a house, you have a decently large enough family. That's the point where you may consider an additional freezer, like a standalone freezer type thing, and utilize that to the maximum. Honestly, I just learned something this morning, which was very, very interesting that, for example, let's say you make homemade jam or you purchase jam, at the grocery store. Did you know that jam could freeze for up to 1 year? That is really good to know because sometimes we like to keep that little bit of sweet something to put a little bit, something, let's say on a piece of wonderfully homemade bread. What a treat. To me, I consider simple stuff like that literally a treat or some really good quality or decent quality sliced bread that you got at the grocery store and hopefully on sale. And that's another thing. Sliced bread freezes really, really well. What's the main reason why many people run to the grocery store for incidental trips? Two reasons: bread and milk. Probably eggs too, is my good guess. But it was really nice to learn about the jam being able to keep in the freezer. How many of you out there utilize your freezer as part of your stockpiling? People forget, and I don't understand why. Even people with just a refrigerator freezer, for example, let's say you live in the middle of the city, like a certain person I know. I rely on my actual freezer that belongs to my refrigerator, the one on the top, or depends on the kind of fridge you have, or maybe your freezer is located on the bottom. It all depends. Refrigerator freezer is very, very helpful to have. And yeah, I will utilize it. For example, I like to control the way I make soup. Now, I know I mentioned this on a prior video, but not everybody gets to hear all of my videos. So this bears worth repeating. One of the easiest things you can manufacture at home if you are the CEO of your kitchen? Your own homemade soup. Goodness gracious. And you take out some of the leftover stuff that, almost maybe should be going out the door, but you don't want to waste food. Don't do that. Rather than do that, tailor make your own soup with what you have, or start off with brand new, fresh stuff that you got at the grocery store or from your local farmer's market or whatever. And just put together a beautiful soup or a beautiful stew. Those two items freeze really, really well. And here we are now, we're in the month of August when you're listening to this, although I'm recording this on the last day of July. Big deal. August is starting soon in real time for me. But while you're hearing this, you're already 1 week into August. Okay. When I think August, I start thinking September. And like, Jan, but wait a minute, stay in the month of August. Well, I live my life in the month of August, but I can't help but think ahead. And one thing good about when, you live in this area of the world, it starts getting a little brisk and a little cool by the second or third week of September. In fact, in upstate New York, the nights are really, really cool and brisk. Even in the middle of August, sometimes you get those perfect sleeping nights at 60 degrees, dry air, mountain air when you go upstate around this time of the year. I'm not even kidding you. One of my favorite places to visit when it's like this. I'm just saying. But then I start thinking about cooler weather foods. One thing good about the cooler weather, you can manufacture a lot more of your liquid based meals because people start eating more warm meals. But let's get back to the freezer. People dismiss their freezers as part of their stockpile. I really don't understand it. To some people, it's like an afterthought. Well, anyway, we have to rewire our thinking sometimes. Now, if you can't quote end of quote can things, you don't have that type of situation going on, and you're not a homesteader, nor are you interested in that. So people just don't want to do it that way. The freezer is your next to best friend. Utilize it. I strongly suggest you do that. There are plenty of articles. All you have to do is get online and just tap, tap if this is something of interest to you. You know what else is an interesting thing? And a lot of people do this. Like, for example, if I have a family pack of meat, that's when I take advantage of, the sales, and I could, wrap it into smaller packaging. That's what I would do for a family pack. But if I have single packs of meat, to be honest with you, those single type packs of meat, I will not remove them out of their original wrapper. They are already airtight. They are already wrapped properly. Look carefully when you pick them up at the grocery store to make sure that they are as airtightly wrapped as possible. There's no reason for me to duplicate any effort, and they stay very, very well in their original wrapper. All you have to do is, again, let's go back to the freezers, take the item down from the freezer and then utilize it that way. So for me, if I get single packs, that's where it goes. I also like to, let's talk about this during the Stockpile Friday. I am a bit of a bean counter. And I know I expounded upon this on a recent video, but for anyone who didn't get to hear that video yet, I'm just saying. We all know that basically a month has anywhere from 28 to 31 days. But just think on average of the number 30. That should be a magic number, okay? Get 15 items of protein and double it. Double the meals that you're going to get from it. Not just use the one protein source one night and that's the end of it. Make sure you have plenty of meal extenders. All it takes is our 15 items of protein to pack in your freezer. Think about that for a second. It's just a matter of math. This will guarantee you 30 meals if you learn how to double it. For example, let's say that you bought a package of chicken legs, okay? And let's say that you need 5 legs for the original meal, okay? Then obviously you're going to have 5 legs left for future meals. You could do some things with the chicken legs in one area, maybe make a soup out of it, or just coat it up with some good rub on it, and then just throw it in your oven and have some mashed potatoes and string beans for dinner. Something like that. Double your use of the protein. You're always going to be, as I goof and say, winner, winner, chicken dinner. I'm just saying. So there are ways and there are ways. Our freezer could be our friend. And honestly, and I will say this till I am blue in the face, food in the freezer is just like money in the bank.